The 7-inch tablet market is certainly taking off, and no thanks to Apple leading the charge, quite the contrary actually. Their absence I always felt was futile, but a necessary one for them to establish how this device should be positioned for consumers, and this was one area that Apple stressed extensively to me. Where should the iPad mini fit into the current market? Let's take a look. First and foremost, you will be getting exactly what you paid for. The build is premium to say the least. It feels amazingly expensive, probably because it kind of is, but that's okay because I want people to see me with it. The glossy glass front is simple and familiar and trimmed with the new mirror chamfered edges that give it a distinctively crisp gripping point, and then flowing seamlessly into the standard iPad rear aluminium casing. The issue with all of this, I'm terrified that it will not survive unscathed from even a small tumble. The rear casing scratches far too easily, and the glass front, much like the iPhone 5, certainly will smash in spectacular fashion. The side buttons all reside on the top right hand edges of the Mini and allow nice distinction from the body of the device. The Mini sports the new Lightning charging port that we are all slowly getting used to, and speaker grills blend with the casing either side. What was important with all of this, I never felt like I was not holding an iPad. Whilst there is an obvious size difference, the components that make up the extremely sturdy build allow it to look and feel like the infamous iPad. This is imperative because at no point do you want to feel like your experience is compromised by its size, and this is possibly why they opted for an additional 0.9 of an inch in the display. But what this did was turn it into a device that is comparatively awkward to hold in one hand than other 7-inch devices on the market, but honestly, I adored its size. It is lovely and thin, incredibly thin even. It fits easily into my day-to-day life, much better than a full-size tablet can, and I definitely appreciated that the Mini is not a scaled-down version of the iPad, but rather purposefully built from the ground up. The internals, however, come with much controversy, and one could consider a scaled-down next-generation iPad. It is using Apple's older A5 chipset that includes the dual-core 1GHz Cortex-A9 CPU and PowerVR GPU. This positions it in the field of the iPad 2 and 3 and well short of the blitzing iPhone 5 and 4th generation iPad. But it is still very fluid, never jitters unless downloading a significant amount of content, and load times were respectable. Gaming was a brilliant experience. The size of the Mini seems like a better fit for mobile gaming. iOS is just so well refined for A5 chipset these days that it can't be faulted even on seemingly lower specs, especially compared to the quad-core standard and 2GB of RAM that the high-end Android devices seem to require for the same experience. Expectations were that the Mini would come with the powerhouse specifications of the current iPad in a compact form, and the announcement left a lot of people offside. The reality is that now Apple has set a price standard for a device that some people would have purely bought initially just for the branding, and now can release a spec'd out version in 6 months and drop this model to a competitive price that consumers will love, and in a market that it then has presence and knowledge of. But at $369 for the base 16GB Wi-Fi only version, up to $729 for the 64GB Wi-Fi and LTE version, it's a pricier alternative. One thing that definitely stands out for me is the choice of display. Apple opted to go with the same screen resolution as the first and second generation iPad to ensure compatibility of all applications for that uncompromised iPad experience. And in this market where resolution is the flavor of the month, 163 ppi pixel density is very, very low. It is distinctively noticeable on first use after using the iPhone 5 or iPad with Retina display. But thanks to improved LCD panels, the screens were honestly not terrible once you get used to it. Text take the biggest hit, but vibrant images and movies are engrossing, and gaming looks great. And it seems comparable to the Nexus 7. I actually preferred it, but I think that this is because I love that Apple gave an additional 0.9 of an inch of display. And it's a better screen size, far more usable, and helps buffer the drop from the 9.7-inch iPad. Running the latest iOS 6, the iPad mini hosts all the great native applications as well as the full suite of App Store downloads. Multitasking is achieved with 4-fingered swipes. Left and right to switch between running applications, swiping up and down reveals the multitasking panel, and pinching inwards closes that application. It's very fluid, makes using the device far swifter. The notifications list is still present, and Twitter and Facebook integration, and Siri finds a home within the Mini as well, even though I never used it like I would on an iPhone. The keyboard on the Mini is actually great. In portrait, I could type better than on any other device. Letters are sized and spaced perfectly. In landscape, the spacing is still a little stretched and I benefited from splitting the keys up. However, using the smart cover as a stand made touch typing brilliant. While I did say that the Mini was awkward in one hand, it was fantastic in two no matter which way you look at it. Generally, I was more inclined to use it in landscape. It felt right there, but when I did take it to portrait, the software registers when my thumbs are contacting both the very thin bezel and the screen and doesn't count that as a touch. It's impressive how accurate this is, and if it hadn't been the case, the Mini would have been a pest to use. If you have an investment into iTunes, the iPad Mini makes a lot of sense. Even if you don't, the quality of the Mini as an entertainment hub for the whole family is exceptional. Audio quality from the speakers is superb as usual, and thanks to Apple's wonderful 5-megapixel rear iSight camera, photos are actually good on a tablet for once, especially using the 1.2-megapixel front-facing camera to FaceTime video chat. Portability is the selling point for me when it comes to wanting a multimedia device, and I never felt like I would benefit with the larger form factor. The Mini is exactly what I wanted it to be. Sure, it doesn't have the specs we anticipated, but that wasn't such a bad thing once I spent enough time with it. It provided me finally with an iPad experience that wasn't tedious to carry around on a day-to-day basis. I could sometimes fit it in my pocket even, pants permitting, and this meant a lot to someone like me. I travel to work, I have a small child, a partner who all use it for different needs. It's simple for someone to just pick up and use, and the smaller size makes it far less imposing. I appreciate that some people need that larger size iPad to complete certain activities, but if you are looking for a tablet to run everyday apps, watch movies, play games, and browse the web, you won't be disappointed. If you are looking to do more, then look at a hybrid laptop because you really aren't as limited by a 7.9-inch iPad as people assume. Don't forget to like and subscribe. This has been Kurt from KABOOtech. Thanks for watching.